All right, let's dive into a really critical safety update for the Airbus A320 family. We're talking about EASA Airworthiness Directive 2025-0248. This is a mandatory one, and it's all about the integrity of the overhead stowage compartments. We're going to cover why this is happening, exactly what you need to do, and what it means for your operations. Let's get right into it.
So, here's our game plan. We'll start with a quick overview of the directive itself. Then, we'll dig into the root cause and the safety risks that triggered this whole thing. After that, we'll nail down exactly which aircraft are affected, walk through the technical steps for compliance, sum up the operational impact for management, and then finish up with a clear call to action.
Okay, first things first. Let's talk dates. This is a mandatory airworthiness directive, and it comes from EASA, the European Union Aviation Safety Agency. It was issued on November 6, 2025, and it officially goes into effect on November 20th. This one falls under ATA Chapter 25, which, as you know, covers equipment and furnishings.
So why this ad and why now? Well, the investigation uncovered a very specific problem, a failure mode that could have some pretty serious consequences. Let's take a closer look at what they found.
The whole issue stems from reports coming in from the field. Maintenance crews started finding damage on the Aries overhead bins in several A320 family aircraft, specifically at the YZ axis attachment points. And because this wasn't just a one-off incident, it triggered a full-blown investigation.
So, the investigation found the culprit. Key structural bits, we're talking bushings, retainer rings, and pins, were actually moving or migrating out of their designated positions. This could be due to axial loading during flight or maybe even improper maintenance. But here's the really tricky part. You can't always see that these parts have moved, which creates a hidden risk of failure. And that hidden risk leads us to the worst-case scenario. I'm going to read this directly from EASA because it's so important. A compromised overhead bin could lead to OHSC detachment, possibly resulting in injury to airplane occupants and/or blocking of an escape path during an emergency evacuation. That right there is exactly why this is a mandatory directive.
Okay, so which aircraft are we talking about? Let's get specific about the models and the part numbers that fall under this directive.
This directive casts a wide net across the A320 family, so that's your A318s, 319s, 320s, and 321s. But, and this is a big but, there is a key exception. If your aircraft had Airbus Mod 3581-12 installed during production, and it does not have Mod 38722, then you're in the clear. Your aircraft is excluded.
Now, to manage all of this, the AD splits the fleet into two camps. Group 1 is any aircraft that currently has one of the affected parts installed. Group 2 is basically everyone else. It's really crucial to know which group you're in, because that's going to determine exactly what you need to do and by when.
And here they are. These are the specific part numbers that will land your aircraft in Group 1. This list comes straight from the AD's appendix. And just so you know, that XXX is basically a wild card for any number sequence. If any of these parts are on your aircraft, you are officially in Group 1.
All right, let's get into the heart of it, the actual work that needs to be done. This is the must-know information for all of your technical and maintenance teams. For any aircraft in Group 1, the clock starts ticking on November 20th, 2025. From that effective date, you have exactly 24 months, 2 years, to complete a one-time inspection of every single affected part. The process laid out in the Airbus service bulletin has 3 steps. First, you inspect each part. Second, and this is the real kicker for operations, if you find any discrepancy, you must fix it before the next flight. A single finding can ground an aircraft on the spot. And third, you have to report all of your findings, even if you found nothing, back to Airbus within 30 days. Now, it's really important to note there is an alternative to the inspect and correct route. You can also achieve compliance by just replacing the affected part with a new, serviceable one. This is a totally acceptable way to satisfy the AD for that component. The AD also puts some very strict rules in place to stop this problem from happening again. For Group 1 aircraft, once you've done your inspection and any corrections, you're forbidden from installing another affected part. For Group 2 aircraft, that ban starts immediately from the AD's effective date. No more of these parts can be installed, period.
Okay, let's zoom out from the hangar floor and look at the big picture. What does all of this mean for planning, for logistics, and for management?
From a management standpoint, the impacts are pretty significant. Maintenance planning now has to figure out how to schedule this inspection across the whole fleet within that 2-year window. That before next flight rule introduces a very real risk of unscheduled downtime, which can be a logistical nightmare. Your logistics teams need to get ahead of this and make sure you have serviceable parts or repair kits ready. And of course, your compliance and inventory teams have to be all over the mandatory reporting and the ban on installing old parts.
So, we've covered the why, the who, the what, and the how. Let's wrap this all up with a clear, final call to action.
The message here couldn't be simpler. This is not optional. Every single operator is legally required to be fully compliant with this Airworthiness Directive by the deadlines we've discussed.
So what should you do right now? First, get your camo, planning, and maintenance teams talking. You need a coordinated plan. Second, make sure your technical experts dig into that Airbus service bulletin for all the nitty-gritty details. And finally, always treat the official EASA AD document as the ultimate source of truth. We'll leave you with this question. The clock is ticking, and the safety implications are crystal clear. The question isn't what to do, but how quickly you can get it done. Is your fleet's compliance plan for this AD established and ready to execute?